yes, as you stated, I'm going to be talking about EDI, but in the US, we say DEI and radiology and its importance. I'm a first year attending at University of Wisconsin-Madison in musculoskeletal imaging and intervention. And here we go. Maybe it's not working. There we go. I have no disclosures. So I want everyone to take out their cell phones, and you can either text this phone number and send it to Jade Anderson 566, or you can use Poll Everywhere, but I have a lot of QR codes in this talk if you're interested in any of the articles as well. So unfortunately, I'm on the hospital computer, so you can't see the responses, but I can on my computer. So I'll read them to you after you guys kind of participate. So this is the first question. It is open, but I wanted to know, do you know what EDI or DEI means and stands for? I asked this question because I asked this question 3 times in the past 2 days, and the answer was no each time. And I was shocked because now I have a lot of work to do at my own home institution. So everyone that has answered has said yes, 100%. That's awesome. Do you feel comfortable expressing your opinions and ideas without fear of discrimination or of bias? I'm getting some variability with this question. Wow. So as where it stands, about 63% of you actually said no, and 38% do feel that you feel comfortable. That's also an issue. This is why DEI is important. On a scale of 1 to 5, does your leadership or department encourage equity, diversity, and inclusion? And the 5 is hidden, but it's a scale of 1 to 5 on my side.
Is 5 very supportive?
5 is very supportive, yes. Oh, now people are changing their answers. I guess I should have made that clear. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so the majority of you, around 50% of you, are midline. You're like, maybe, so-so, etc. Do you have a sense of belonging at work? So this was a quick answer. Everyone's answering this one pretty quick. And I like what I see so far. I spoke too soon. So around 71% of you are saying, yes, you do have a sense of belonging at work. That's a healthier work environment. I also like hearing that. And then this is my last question here. Have you ever been discriminated against? Curious. Okay. So 75% of you have said yes, 78%. I'm surprised that there have been no no's, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. So let's get into this talk just a little bit more. So what is EDI or DEI? And so EDI stands for equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so I kind of want to go over equity in this graphic here. So here we have 3 people that are watching the baseball game, right? And then they all have the same box. So this is what's known as equality, and equality equals sameness. So equality promotes fairness and justice by giving everyone the same thing. Yet you notice that the short person here can't see over the fence. So this can only work if everyone starts from the same place. In this example, once the person on the left, sorry, somebody was knocking on my door back there. Once the person on the left gave up their box to the person who needed it on the right, this is now equity, and equity promotes fairness. So fairness is about making sure that everyone gets equal access to the same opportunities, but they're meeting them where they start, right? So then let's move on to diversity. Diversity is the practice or the quality of including or involving people from a range of different backgrounds. This can be different experiences, job levels, gender, age. And then finally, you have inclusion. And inclusion is the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for those who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized. And an example of this is a person who may have physical or intellectual disabilities or members of other minority groups. And I want you to take a look at this petri dish of colors and look at the difference between inclusion and integration, because I feel like a lot of people have been successful at integration, but they have not been successful at inclusion. And so you have the yellow, red, and blue dots. Yes, they've been accepted into this place, but they do not feel as if they belong. Whereas in inclusion, they do feel as if they belong, and that is the goal with DEI. So to put it simply, as a person, I would like to be treated with the same acknowledgement, respect, and fairness as the person next to me who may not look like me or have a disability or etc. So let's go through a brief history. So DEI and its etiology is basically rooted in the 1960s civil rights movement in the United States. So this started with Brown versus the Board of Education. So this ruling was emblematic of desegregation, and the American workforce actually had its own integration milestones thereafter. You have the Equal Pay Act of 1963. This required employers to give men and women equal pay for the same job. You have the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This prohibited employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. And then finally, don't forget Glenn. So this was established in 1978 by HP. And this was the first LGBTQ plus employee research group of its kind. And after it was established at HP, basically companies like AT&T and larger companies followed suit in the 80s. And these were all kind of groundbreaking and helped to formulate how DEI kind of starts. So why is DEI important and why do I like to talk about this? So high quality care is only equitable when it's delivered by a diverse workforce. And I'll go a little bit more into that. You cannot have quality and safety without spelling equity. And then finally, lack of diversity that doesn't mimic, your representative population in its research could perpetuate healthcare disparities. So obviously I'm a Black woman in radiology, so I will discuss some stats from our current workforce. So this graphic here actually shows the percentage of women in US radiology residency programs from 1978 to 2017. And so, oh, sorry, couldn't see the graphic. And so you see the black line here, and this is all women in residency programs within medicine. So this is approaching 50%, and this actually matches kind of the medical student population now in the United States, which is about half women and half men. However, if you take a look at the red line, this is what is representative of women in radiology residencies. And since basically the early 90s, women in radiology have leveled out to 25%. This line has not budged. This line should match this line. This is a red flag. So what about in the world? So globally, 1 in 3 radiologists are female. And so using data from societies that covered around 184,000 radiologists across 26 countries, this study found that globally, 33.5 radiologists are in fact female. I just told you on the other slide, that's 25% in the United States. The United States is underperforming. Specifically, Thailand is around 85%, Romania 68%, Spain is 50%. And these countries have the highest percentages of women in these radiological societies. Then you look at the female representation in the United States, and you look at the data from RSNA, or the Radiological Society of North America, and they found that more than 27% of its members are female. Again, the United States is behind. So globally, again, more than 48% of radiologists are actually aged 35 or younger. And so this was according to data from 17 different imaging societies. And this suggests that these countries are making progress with their DEI recruitment strategies. Again, let's not talk about the United States. So Denmark, Italy, El Salvador, Costa Rica, they've achieved majority female membership among the younger generation of female members. And around 94% of country societies providing the data reported female representation of at least 1/3 among the younger cohort, so around 33%. Globally, female representation among leadership boards of these radiological societies was only more than 50% in just 2 countries, and that was 71% in El Salvador and 60% in Denmark. More than half of the Radiological Society board members are female across the board. Sorry, for these 2 countries. The lowest percentage was Argentina, and they hovered around 9%. So Cater and colleagues noted that the gender disparity among society board members in the US is not groundbreaking news for anyone who follows these trends on a regular basis. And they said, as previously discussed, women are underrepresented among radiology vice chairs, among radiology section chiefs, and among radiology department chairs. And major journal mastheads have fewer women in editorial roles than would be expected given their representation in academic radiology. So let's take a look at the trend from women in medical school to residency and then finally to their leadership positions. And so what do you notice? Again, 50%, about 50-50 in terms of women and men in medical school. And about 29% are applying to radiology residency. This is a big disconnect. This is something that I am currently working on and attacking as my own personal list of things to do. That being said, 27% of radiology residents are women, which we see here. And then there's a little bit of a drop off when they become practicing radiologists, and that could be for a variety of reasons. But of that, so for those that are radiology residents, about 13% are women. And this should match. This should definitely match, and it does not. There's work to be done. We have a bad rap in radiology, actually. So radiology is actually the worst performer for women amongst its ranks in a non-surgical specialty. And in terms of leadership, only 16% of radiology chairs were women. This data is from 2014. So let's look at 2018. What do you see? Of radiology women chairs, it only bumped up 0.8%. So still very small and not representative. This is again from 2018 and the percentage of women residents by specialty. And you can see that radiology is still nestled very low on the totem pole. You have plastic surgery, urology, vascular surgery are all doing better than radiology. So what about scientific trainees in the United States? So of the composition of scientific trainees in the United States, about 46% are women, and about 51% are composed of foreign postdoctoral students. And surprisingly, foreign men actually make up about 30% of these students. According to UNESCO Institute for Statistics data, less than 30% of the world's researchers overall, however, are women. Some countries are performing better than others. So Venezuela is performing around 61%, North Macedonia 52%, and Myanmar at a staggering 76%. How does radiology measure in racial and ethnic diversity? So this work is from Chapman, and it shows that while the US population was composed of 12.6% Black persons, only 6.8% are medical students, 3.1% are diagnostic radiology residents, and then 2% become faculty. And then similarly, for those of Hispanic or Latino ethnicity, they comprise 16.3% of the US population, 7.4% of medical students, but only 4.8% of diagnostic radiology residents, and 3.8% of faculty. I have some updated statistics because that was from 2010. So from 2019 to 2020, we've only increased underrepresented minorities in radiology by 0.7%. This is less than a percentage change over the course of 10 years. So this is the entire composition of active residents and fellows by race and ethnicity in 2021 to 22. And it's compared to their representation in the US population. So you can see that of trainees in the United States, about 53% are white. And of the US Census, this comprises around 59%. So that's actually pretty similar. You can see that Asians are actually overrepresented in medicine versus their composition of the United States. And then when specifically looking at underrepresented minorities in medicine, they only make up about 15% of all residents across the board. This is compared to 35% of the US population. These numbers should be equal. This is a 2018 article to evaluate trends in racial, ethnic, and sex representation at US med schools across 16 specialties. And then they furthermore went to quantify the degree of underrepresentation for these racial minority groups and women faculty by their rank for assistant, associate, and full professors. And they looked from 1990 to 2016. This is the trend that they found, that Blacks and Hispanics are more underrepresented in 2016 than they were back in 1990 at the same levels, academic levels. What about in research? So diversity in NIH research award winners has been studied. These figures represent data from 2008 to 2012. And the horizontal dashed line at 1 basically indicates the transition point between underrepresentation and overrepresentation when compared to the relevant labor pool. And then from left to right, the bar graphs indicate advancements in research. So from high school, basically all the way on the left, to R01 grant type research awards all the way to the right. So interestingly, white, Black, and Hispanic women are overrepresented at the postdoctoral and mentored K positions. And so you can see postdoc and K awardees here, overrepresentation. This significantly decreases in number when you're looking at the R01 awardee grants, very small here. All groups actually, except white males, and I think I put all of my arrows here. It's the orange arrow. All groups except white males are underrepresented in the R01 equivalent award level. So women and men, unless you're a white male, you are not getting these R01 equivalent awards. Of note, the NIH did put out a strategic plan for DEI and accessibility for the fiscal years of 2023 to 2027. And they basically want to articulate their commitment to embracing, strengthening, and integrating these initiatives across the activities that they're doing, because they want to achieve the agency's mission, because they recognize that the principles of DEI and accessibility are intrinsic to the achievement of better health for everyone. They published 3 objectives. They wanted to grow and sustain DEI and accessibility through structural and cultural change. They wanted to implement organizational practices to center and prioritize these initiatives in the biomedical and behavioral research workforce. And they wanted to advance these initiatives through research as well. Let's look at business, because I feel as if business has been the more popular subject in terms of DEI. And so this is a Harvard Business Review study. So this study looked at 79 large companies, and they found that for every 0.1 point improvement, and this was on a 5-point scale, 0.1 point improvement in DEI ratings for the company This was linked to a corresponding 13% increase in the absolute change power score. I'm going to tell you what the change power score is. So the change power means double the improvement in earnings before interest and taxes, double the improvement in shareholder returns, and about 3 times the improvement or increased revenue growth. So when you have increased DEI ratings for your company, basically your money goes up. Then on the right graphic, based on a study of nearly 10,000 employees in 7 countries and 18 intersectional populations, incorporating DEI in talent development actually turned out to be the single most consistent contributor to increased inclusion out of 72 factors that were tested. So people felt that you had a higher rate of inclusion for your company when you taught DEI and talent development. What about the McKinsey Consulting Group? So they published a report that was titled Diversity Wins, How Inclusion Matters. So on the left, in the blue bars, it basically shows that organizations with diversity of gender are 25% more likely to be more profitable than their peers. It also shows that organizations with diversity of ethnicity, which are the green bars on the right, they're 36% more likely to be more profitable than their peers. Finally, you have the World Economic Forum. They also published a report, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion 4.0. This suggests that companies with diverse employees have up to a 20% higher rate of innovation and a 19% higher innovation revenues, so of that return, than those that are not diverse. So what can you do to promote DEI? Dr. Spilluto and team's article kind of outlines the key steps that leaders can take to address the needs of women in radiology. But I believe a few of them can easily be applied globally and broadly when it comes to DEI initiatives. So you want to market radiology, research, and career opportunities to what you're looking for in a diverse team. You want to address recruitment and bias. You want to prevent burnout and promote well-being. Offer flexible work opportunities. Provide mentorship and career advancement opportunities. And don't forget to ensure equity. So I want to take a quick moment, if you could scan this QR code. So this article actually seeks to equip those in radiology with an evidence-based and practical knowledge toolkit of health equity strategies. And this is presented in terms of 4 pillars: research, clinical care, innovation, and education. And for each pillar, they look through the lens of existing barriers, the current best practices, and future directions. And they incorporated practical examples relevant to the spectrum of patient populations, depending on what you serve. What can you do specifically for science? So the United Nations published a report that was put forth by the Global UNESCO Project called the STEM and Gender Advancement Science, Technology, and Innovation Gender Objective List. That's a very long title. So they said, change your perception, change your attitudes, your behaviors, the social norms, change the stereotypes that you have towards women in STEM in society. You want to engage girls and young women in STEM in their primary and secondary education, but you also want to engage them in technical and vocational education and training. You want to attract, access, and retain women in STEM higher education at all levels. Promote gender equity and career progression for scientists and engineers. Promote the gender dimension in research content, practice, and agendas. Promote gender equality in STEM-related policymaking. That's very important, policymaking. And promote gender equality in science and technology-based entrepreneurship and innovation activities. So this is my last QR code recommendation. This is actually the Harvard Implicit Bias Test. And I want you to scan it when you have your time to assess your own internal biases that you may have. I actually took this test during med school, and I was surprised with my own results. In conclusion, all of us have experienced a different journey, but again, we all came together to attend MRI together. And what brings people together is what matters most. So I hope you understood a little bit about what DEI is and the efforts that are happening here in the field of radiology. And I'd like to give a huge acknowledgement to Drs. Flores, Martin, Narayan, and Spoluto. These are huge DEI proponents in the radiology field. And if you haven't, please look up their research that they're doing. And I hope that you all can come and visit Madison, Wisconsin someday. And I hope to show you around. Thank you very much.